We are the show for the thinking fan. Hi again, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny. Great to be back with you. Was that a statement series for the Braves? They take a series on the mighty Dodgers. We love the strike zone challenge, of course, but what is the line on denying a challenge? One ump did it twice in one game. And the puzzling Patrick Bailey trade. Buster Posey deals a fellow catcher. John Heyman, Cliff Floyd are here on the panel, and former managers Joe Maddon and Brian Snitker will join us as well to talk about the baseball life of an all-time great. We start there. Bobby Cox passing away over the weekend, dying from congestive heart failure. He had a stroke in 2019. He was 84 years old. Cox, the longtime manager of the Atlanta Braves, reached the baseball pinnacle, inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2014, going in as one of the most respected managers in the history of the game. Let's take a quick look back. The resume, of course, speaks for itself. 29 seasons as a big league manager, 14 consecutive division titles with the Braves. That's a record. 5 National League pennants, 1 World Series title. He is number 4, on the all-time wins list for Major League managers, behind only old-timers Connie Mack and John McGraw, and then his contemporary Tony La Russa. Managers can only go into the Hall of Fame by a Veterans Committee vote. Cox went in unanimously the very first time his name appeared on a ballot.
A few years ago, I was sitting with Steve Stone, the broadcaster for the Chicago White Sox, at an Arizona Fall League game, and this guy comes up and says, "Steve, can I have your autograph?" He says, "Sure." He signs it, and he says, "Hey, you don't want Bobby's autograph?" And the guy just stared at me. And he said, "Yeah, I know you. You're that guy from Atlanta that gets thrown out all the time, right?" I said, "Yeah, that's me, but Lasorda, if he hadn't quit so early in his career, he would have had the record that I've got now." In my wildest dreams, did I ever think this could happen? But I'm sure glad it did. Thank you.
That's a great moment. And yeah, the short history says the Braves won just 1 overall World Series championship. But today, in this era of the larger playoff tournament, I think we know better the happenstance of the postseason. And the Braves lost 1 World Series as close as it possibly could have as well. That epic 1-0 Game 7 between Jack Morris and John Smoltz. They lost 2 others competitively in 6 games to the stacked 92 Blue Jays and the first title run for Joe Torre's Yankees in 1996. Speaking of which, Cox managed in the Yankees farm system in the early 1970s. He was Billy Martin's first base coach for the 1977 World Series Championship Club, and for 5 years was the Braves' general manager, helping restructure the entire organization. It was a lifetime of baseball and excellence.
This is really for Ted and the fans. It's, they stuck by this organization, this franchise a long time, and we've been close before, but we finally got it. And it's tribute to ownership, really. We could have won them all. We could have lost tonight. Sometimes it's just a flip of the coin. Our players from the day one of spring training wanted to win this thing. That was their goal, and they finally achieved it. If they keep expecting us to be here, that means we're pretty darn good. So we'll take that.
And beyond the division titles and all the success with the Braves is something that goes beyond the resume and even the Hall of Fame plaque. It is the immense respect Cox carried within the game. Having worked here with many different players at MLB Network, players like John Smoltz, Mark DeRosa, I can't tell you how many times Cox's name would just come up out of the blue, describing a teaching moment or a moment where a player or a team was shown the proper way to do things, the professional way to conduct yourself, taught by Bobby Cox. So yes, 2,504 wins, 15 90-win seasons, but for a generation or 3 of players, Bobby Cox was the finest manager they would ever have. Few men are able to have that said about them. Let us know what you think. Who do you think the best manager is of the expansion era? That's since 1961. I wanted to get that era in there, and not just go Connie Mack and John McGraw and the old-time guys who could hang around for 50 years, but guys from the expansion era 1961. Let us know on X at MLB Now who you think. We're going to have our list coming up here as well. Cliff Floyd is here. Cliff, great having you back.
Thank you.
John Heyman, great having you back as well. Thoughts on Bobby Cox? You've been watching the game and covering the game since the 70s, John.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Bobby Cox?
Well, he's obviously a great manager, and anyone you talk to who played for him absolutely loves this guy, reveres him. So he was was just a consistent, excellent manager. 14 division championships in a row. I'm going to say that's never going to happen, but of course the Dodgers are doing pretty well. We'll see. But 14 in a row is a lot. Fourth all-time on managerial wins. But he was a great general manager as well. You mentioned 5 years, but I mean, in that time he picked up Glavine, Smoltz, Justice. He drafted Chipper Jones. So he was a great baseball guy, and he was heavily involved with the front office moves, even as manager. So he was one of the greatest baseball guys of all time. And I'll tell you a little story. He did have a sense of humor. In 2002, at Newsday, we wrote a story, which would probably be considered quaint today, but we wrote a story about how the Mets had a marijuana problem, right? They had 7 players who were on pot. It was a big back page story. The very next day, Bobby Cox had this pitcher on his team who never got a hit in the major leagues, only had 2 at-bats this year, and it was no reason for him to be batting. He put him up to bat, a left-handed batter, and his back of his name was facing the Mets dugout. His name happened to be Bong. So I went to him and said, "Did you do this on purpose?" He played dumb. He acted like he never heard of the story. He was a funny guy, and I mean,
I never heard that one. Yeah,
not many people will remember that.
That's a good one. You were in the National League a long time, going up against Bobby Cox. What do you think, Cliff?
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, they kicked our butts a lot. They was our nemesis, right, for a long time, and we got them in '97 with the Marlins for once. And in our clubhouse, we was thinking at the time, if we can get past them, we weren't thinking about the game more so than the fact that they just wore us out consistently. And it started with him. He was in control. He leaded them. He got them on the right page consistently. You hear everybody since the passing talk about what he did for their career and what he did for them as not just the play, but the person. And when you look at talent, BK, you can mess talent up. You can mess up the opportunity to lead these dudes to winning consistently. He didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so, when you look at the 2,500 wins and to what John mentioned about the division titles and so on and so forth, when he got this group of players right here on our board, it just made sense. Other than John Shorehouse, who was the general manager, it just every single day you had to prepare for. You're going to probably lose this game. Now, if you mess up, you give them an extra out, you're losing. If you do anything wrong, you're losing. And that was consistent. And so very hard to do when you come up that way and you see it for so long. I think that's why I watched the game differently today.
Yeah.
Because of what Bobby Cox was able to do back then.
I hear from so many people, again, I said just out of the blue, happenstance. I mentioned Mark DeRosa, I mentioned John Smoltz. Who's the best manager you ever played against or played for? Bobby Cox comes up all the time.
Simple.
And take a look, and just for people have a framework of something, take a look at the most managerial wins since 1969. This is the divisional era. We're saying you can pick between 1961 and 1969. I'm trying to weed out managers from the 50s and the 40s with the Yankees winning all the time. But Tony La Russa, Bobby Cox, and Joe Torre, Bruce Bochy's won 4 titles. Sparky Anderson, Dusty Baker's up there. Terry Francona is moving up the list.
He's a great manager.
Sweet Lou, Jim Leland, our own Buck Showalter right there. Whitey Herzog, Billy Martin, I would say guys who have in the 1200s in the win total. They should be considered as well. But you can just a fun poll as we look at and try to honor some of the great managers.
And I played for, Lou Piniella with the Cubs. Jim Leland won the World Series with '97. And in '97, I got traded to the Marlins and played for Jim Leland. But we shared a complex. So I came from the Expos. We shared a complex with Bobby Cox and Braves. And Expos. We had the same complex down in West Palm Beach. Saw Bobby all the time. When I got traded to the Marlins in '97, he was sitting in the dugout in Miami, smoking a cigar. Goes, "Hey, come here." I run over to the dugout. He goes, "Hey, you're not going to be the last person this happened to." Now, I was a first-round draft pick. I was supposed to be the next coming in Montreal. It didn't happen that way. And when he told me, he goes, "You just keep working. It's going to work itself out." He wanted to help everybody. Wow. And I felt like Bobby Cox sitting here smoking a cigar, this is living. This is, you know what I mean? I know I'm going through some trials and tribulations. But if he's telling me this, and I have another great one across the way in Jim Leland. You know what I mean? As my manager.
But he said, you're not the first this has happened to. That's interesting.
And it won't be the last. So you go through this right now and know what you don't want ever to happen again. And that was some truly sweet and special.
We'll talk to Brian Snitker coming up. We'll talk to Joe Madden as well. Joe Madden's favorite leader.
This guy.
Talk to Joe Madden. This guy.
Joe.
How about that? All right, let's talk about the Braves. First, though, Braves and Dodgers. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Braves taking 2 out of 3 against the mighty Dodgers. Atlanta with the best record in baseball, best run differential in baseball, terrific starting pitching. And I always throw in like, hey, what did we learn from this series? And I know, look, in the playoffs, anything can happen. But we're looking at right now, you see Sale, Strider, Bryce Elder all pitching beautifully. Even Sale, they lost that game, was fairly dominant. What do we learn from this series, John? And again, you know, it's a long way to go, and I'm big on the Dodgers this year. But I'm saying, as far as statement series happens, there's a certain statement there, right?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this. My opinion of a team has never changed as much as it has with this Braves team over these 40 games. Coming off of that tough spring training with Profar, with all those injuries that they had, including Strider, nobody thought they were winning that division. Everyone was saying the Mets or the Phillies. Everyone was looking at the Braves as a third-place team. They are the leaders right now in OPS, runs, batting average, ERA. This is no fluke. This is an outstanding team. They hired a great manager. I think they picked the right guy. I'm glad that Walt got a second chance because he is doing a terrific job with an excellent team. And at this point, Olsen may be the MVP, but they're getting contributions from many people.
I want to throw that in, too, because it goes from Bobby Cox, Brian Snitker, now Walt Weiss, and there's something about organizational stability, right? That it just there's not firings at mid-season or in May, and, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. It's like, hey, let's be calm, let's be professional. I have to give the Braves credit for that. Walt Weiss, right, perfect guy, longtime bench coach, steps right in, perfect addition.
Yeah, he was on the desk with us and Winter Minis. And Ron Darling said to him, you couldn't wait for this opportunity to present itself again. He goes, I was chomping at the bit. And he got a great situation to come into because he's getting healthy guys back. What he saw last year under Brian Snitker was, you know, disarray. It was stuff everywhere. It was stuff out the lineup. You can't win, and I say this all the time, you can't win without your stars being available. It's just hard to do, especially when you have the pitching the way they had last year. It was all over the place as well. And then he has them on track, but you also find diamonds in the rough. The Dom Smiths, the Mauricio Dubons, all these guys. When you look at this, BK, it speaks to saying, well, I got my stars, and then my supporting cast guys are stepping up too. It just makes sense, and he's doing it without Ronald Acuna Jr., who I think helps him from a lineup standpoint, meaning that he has some flexibility to move guys around. He hit Drake Baldwin in the second hole. He's hit Michael Harris in the 4-hole. So I think he has some flexibility without having a star player.
I would say this, like, do we know, are they better than the Dodgers? Like, the Dodgers are still going to win 107. They're going to be the best team in baseball. The Padres are right now tied with them in the West. But the Braves are a heavyweight, right? They're in the heavyweight division. Could you lose to anybody in the division series? Sure. But I'm saying you wouldn't be shocked if the Braves take the Dodgers out in the National League playoffs, right?
Right now. The way they look, the way they flying, the way they, you know, like yesterday you get a 2-run homer from Muncy, and then Matt Olson puts it in the win column, goes no. The game's over. So all these little things happening, and to have the pitching back on track, to get Spencer Strider back, to get that's a dog you getting back. That's a beast.
And beating Blake Snell too, because now you know, they roll out Snell like, hey, we got this guy chilling. You know, now he's ready to go, and now we're so much better than you guys. But now you see, like, head to head, are they the equal of the Dodgers or close to it?
You know, I mean, the Dodgers are, I mean, Ohtani and everybody else, but I mean, this team's got aces. Sale's an ace. Elder's pitching like an ace. Strider is a potential ace. You know, this team has a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and you know, they certainly, I'll say they're a big threat. You know, it's hard to say anybody's better than two-time defending champion Dodgers, but they are certainly a big threat.
Yeah, again, in the postseason tournament, anybody can get knocked off at any time. There's no science to it or anything. But Bobby Cox was saying there in the soundbite, right? He's saying, like, look, we could have lost this, we could have won that. True, but are you in the same division? The Braves are in that same super heavyweight division. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Joe Madden will join us. A little cup of Joe time. We'll talk about his feelings on Bobby Cox. We'll talk about wanting to back or not back your player, and his favorite leader of any player. And he's sitting right here. Joe Madden is next.
MLB.
The fourth-time manager of the year. We welcome in a manager of the year as well. Joe Madden is with us every week. Joe, it's Brian Kenny. Thanks for joining us again today.
Good to see you, buddy.
Your thoughts, again, this is a guy who's at the pinnacle of your profession, all-time great manager Bobby Cox. Your thoughts on Bobby?
Yeah, really what stands out to me about Bobby, I knew him a little bit, not a lot, but everybody I'd spoken with, former players that eventually played for me, there was no eyewash with this guy. It was just straightforward stuff. As an example, there was a BP time, say it was 4:45. there was no pre-stretch. Guys would just show up on the field at 4:45 and start taking batting practice. He promoted personal accountability. He was a fellow when authenticity and experience mattered, and he really brought it to the forefront. Just listen to the players and all the accolades coming forward since he has passed, and that just says everything. So I didn't know him really well, but I thought he promoted personal accountability, and I love that.
You know, Joe, it's funny how many guys I hear, like even from Buck Showalter, that came from the Billy Martin school. I don't know if he was exactly right, but he came up through the Yankee system, then was a first base coach under Billy Martin. Is that kind of where it's at? Do you have different schools of thought, or are there just different kind of super mentors out there that lead the way in baseball?
There were super mentors, that's for sure, but there definitely is a method involved. Just the way the game is to be played properly. Fundamentally, a fundamentalist. I consider myself a fundamentalist also because I had some of those super mentors myself. I mean, I'm sure those previous coaches, managers that he had called him while he was in Atlanta on occasion. He stayed in touch with them. And it's really crazy. You hear their voices. I hear Bob Clear's voice in the back of my head right now. It's at different times doing a game because Bob Alou was one of my greatest mentors as a young coach and a manager. So you hear those voices. You replay Don Zimmer because when I tried that bunt, safety squeeze with Javi with a full count in Cleveland in Game 7, that was Zim speaking to me right there. You carry these voices and these people with you, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, we even mentioned Walt Weiss, from Brian Snicker. We're going to have Brian on later. From Bobby Cox. Like, there's a lineage throughout. And it matters, right? Little things matter a lot when at the upper echelon. I wanted to ask you about this, Joe, because I saw this. I was out last week, and I'm just, reading The Athletic, and you wrote an article in The Athletic, the best leaders, the 3 best leaders I managed in Major League Baseball. Number 1, Cliff Floyd, who played for you, your pennant-winning team, 2008 Rays, then David Ross, then Jason Hayward. Cliff Floyd, tell us about that, Joe.
Yes, he's sitting right there, I believe. Hi, Cliff.
What's up, Skip?
He's blushing. Joe, he's blushing so bad right now.
This was not planned, and this was not planned. We want to get up front with that. The thing about Cliff that I remembered most distinctly, 2008 with the Rays. Come on, the Rays are pretty good right now. We weren't back then. I thought Cliff brought both physical and intellectual presence to our locker room immediately. When he walks in, you could see the man right there. He's just like one of his line drives. But the intellectual presence was something that I really did appreciate. He's the kind of guy that walks in, he's going to get himself ready. He knows what it takes for that, but he's always going to check in with everybody else there. And he knew the kind of help that we needed. He'd come into my office once in a while. We'd have wonderful conversations. And I love the curiosity about what we were doing and why, but also his take on different players at that particular time. And we had some young guys on that team. So he was probably more concerned with the group that needed help as opposed to himself. And the last point I want to make is that leadership is taken, it's not given. I think that's a misconception. You could appoint leaders, but that doesn't necessarily mean people are going to follow them. Cliff kind of took it just by showing up, being himself, and how he presented to the rest of that group. That was such a big moment in the ascension of the Devil Rays to the Rays and what they're like today. And Cliff was at the forefront of that, I thought.
Go ahead, Cliff. I mean, you had to be humbled a little. I know you're humble, Cliff, but that's quite an honor.
I mean, it's a great honor, and coming from a great man. So, Skip, I appreciate you, man. And I think it started in the spring training. We had the open door policy where it was just calm, cool, and collect, and we was trying to get the tempo of this room. I mean, we were the year before that, I wasn't there, but you was 30 games under 500. And we knew the talent was there, but we was like, how the heck was we going to get it out? And how we going to maximize these dudes? And it was just fun to come in the office and sit there and have some grown folk conversations, and chill with you, man. That's what you're talking
about, right? Because the thing that people don't understand sometimes, you need grown-ups in the room. I mean, I love young baseball players, love young athletes in general, but there's got to be some grown-ups to keep them in their place or answer difficult questions. Yeah. The manager should not be in that room very often, if at all. Maybe a meeting once in a while. So when you got the veteran within that room that could really deal with conversationally and point out different things to this group of young players, makes all the difference in the world. And you spearheaded that.
Oh, Joe, that was nice.
Hey, BK, real quick. It was true because I remember we had a moment in Cleveland, and BJ at the time, Skip, didn't run out to first base. And you was like, go handle that. And I was like, I got you. I got you.
Yeah. No, Joe, too. Cliff, thanks. Cliff was embarrassed. He didn't want to do that, by the way. We had to drag about.
Beautiful.
And,
Beautiful man.
Joe, I'll just say, Cliff has feel. Right, this time I called a game with Cliff Floyd and Sarah Langs. I never had a better time seeing the game from the perspective of the two of them together, melding like really baseball theory. Is great feel, and I knew exactly what you meant, but I thought, wow, that's really nice. Anyway, I want to ask you a few other things here. Framber Valdez, right, hits Trevor Story after he's given up some runs, hits him. AJ Hinch, his manager, didn't exactly defend him. Said hey, we play a good brand of baseball. That didn't feel like it. You go out on the field, usually you want to be in the right. It didn't feel good being out there. What about that? Clearly, he didn't dig what his own guy did.
Don't you love when people tell the truth? He did not dissemble whatsoever, AJ. I mean, that's just what happened right there. That really screamed at the rest of his ball club. It screamed at the entire organization in a good way. When you do that, it disarms the situation almost immediately. When I was with the Cubbies, we had some issues with a certain team, and I thought they were trying to, start some things. And my line at that time was, we're not going to start stuff, but we'll end stuff. So there's a difference with that, too. So when a team, you don't want to be the team that starts something.
Right.
I never wanted us to be that group. So that's it. And when I read that, AJ is very intentional. He knows exactly what he's talking about all the time. And Framber needed to hear that. I don't know the kid. I know we had the issue last year when crossing up the catcher intentionally. So that's kind of like a consistent level of not really good behavior on a major league level. So hopefully this is going to get him back in line. If that really sinks in well with Framber and among the team, that could really help jettison them into the future.
You know what's now? I wanted to do this too. Follow this. Gerrit Cole in the minors, right?
Yeah.
High A ball. Guy hits a home run off him, right? The next time he sees him, he drills those. There's a home run. Next time he sees this guy, he's pitching for the Hudson Valley Renegades. This guy makes $36 million a year, and he hits the guy. I mean, come on. Joe, what about that?
Yeah, I'm not into that so much. But is there any kind of context to this? Any other layers? Did the kid pimp the home run the first time through? Whatever.
I did not see him dancing. I don't know.
Yeah, if it was just purely because he had a home run, that's really poor form, I believe. If something else occurred, maybe.
I doubt the guy is moonwalking, hitting a home run in the minors off Gerrit Cole, right? I doubt. I didn't see. I'd have to look, but we'll look.
It doesn't play well. It doesn't play well in Hudson Valley nor New York City. Right. So I'd like to know more about it. It just seems it's incongruent. It should not happen. It should not happen.
I lived in the Hudson Valley. It's beautiful. And no, they're not down with that. Exactly.
Right,
all right. Tony Vitello of the Giants, right? New manager, had this confusion. Didn't signal whether he wanted a right-handed reliever or a lefty. O'Neal Cruz was coming up. You figure you want a lefty. But his own bullpen is like, who, Skip? Who? So what's your read on the whole situation? I don't know if it looked better in real time than it did on the tape. I'm watching it on tape. It doesn't look good. What's your read?
Yeah, I mean, there's times when there is a little confusion like that. It actually happened to me in New York City one time going out to take out, I can't remember who, but I was wanting Randy Choate, and we're sending in Balfour, and he gets to the mound, and wow, what are you doing here? And the next pitch, Granderson hits a ball in the upper deck. So, I mean, I don't want to lend too much I don't want to put too much wind behind these sails right now because Tony's from college, whatever. That's a bad communique. That's a bad moment. It looks horrible, not as horrible as it looked. Who knows if somebody called down from the dugout first to the bullpen to indicate who's coming in or not. That's what happened to me. So I'm not going to give this a whole lot of anything except I'm betting it'll never happen again.
Okay. Now, well done by you. I agree with you. Right? The big thing can be made of it. But Tony La Russa, it happened to him. He wanted one guy, got Jason Mott. Remember that? Or, Ozzie Guillen, give me Jenks. Do you want the tall guy? Do you want the wide guy?
Or the fat guy, right?
We don't say fat anymore, Joe. Why?
No, I know. But it's truth. Like I said, don't you love the truth? I just said that a couple minutes ago.
That was good. Joe, great having you on the show once again. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Oh, it was great to see you guys.
All right.
See you, buddy. Bye.
Bye. That is Brian Snitker. After winning the World Series championship with the Braves a few years back, Brian Snitker hired by the Braves 1980. Bobby Cox was in his third year as the manager of the Braves. He had two stints. He was with the Blue Jays in between. Brian Snitker, third base coach under Bobby Cox for a number of years. Also a longtime minor league manager in the Bobby Cox era. Brian Snitker joins us now. Brian, it's Brian Kenny. Thanks for joining us today. Just if you could give us your thoughts on Bobby Cox again after his passing and your thoughts on him as a life in baseball.
No, it's been a couple of rough days, I'll tell you. He wasn't doing great, so it wasn't a surprise, but still, I mean, the man had such an impact on so many people. He reached out. I've had a lot of calls, a lot of emails, texts. I mean, we all say the same thing, how he affected our lives, not only in baseball, but as we were young men growing up and raising.
Go ahead, Brian.
He just had an unbelievable impact on so many people.
Okay, well, let's do that for a second.
I mean,
Brian, how would you characterize his style exactly? Because he seems low key, yet clearly getting tossed out as often as he did. There's a certain volatility there. How would you characterize his style?
His style he was consistent. He was patient, just a strong leader. I mean, and Bobby didn't have to raise he didn't raise his voice to us, or the players. I mean, he went out and he backed his players, and that was part of it. That was, I think, a big key to getting guys and why they loved him so much. But he was just such a consistent, patient leader. And it's hard to be in this sport. And I know I would sit there as a third base coach, and I'd be on his left side every day, every night, and I would react to situations, and he'd look at me like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, nothing." I mean, guy give up an 0-2 grand slam, and I'm raising hell, and he just sitting there just calm as could be. And but that was him. I mean, it's like he'd been through everything. He touched so many of us. I had a call early this morning with one of our former coaches, and we're all disciples of Bobby. And he touched so many people. And it was more than just the X's and O's of the baseball game and how he ran a game and all that. And he was always 3 innings ahead of the other manager on the other side. But it was about the man and how he just how consistent he was. He came to the ballpark every day, the same guy. You could never tell when Bobby walked through the door if we had lost 10 or won 10, because everything every day. And that's the way his teams were like that. And it's things that as a major league manager that I tried to do too, and hopefully I did. And because it's just one of those things when you're with a man like that. I used to go down to the dugout when he did his media and sit with him because I was always curious. And you know what? You could say anything you want. He loved that time of day. And he loved going down there, and he would get his cigar. He would go in there, and every grounds crew guy in the league would come over and talk to him. And he had an unbelievable way of making everybody feel like they were the most important person in the room. It was just God blessed him with that gift. And I was blessed to be his third base coach his last 4 years. I spent a lot of time with him. This hurts. When we lost him, we knew this day was coming. I was fortunate I saw him last week, and pretty much I went over and told him goodbye for the 5th time. I remember prior to that, I kissed him 4 times and told him I loved him. And I remember the first time I went to Philadelphia to start a playoff series. I did the same thing this year before I went to spring training. And when I came back, he was doing better than he was when I left. So it was a sad day. The world lost a great man, not only baseball man, but a great man, a great father, a great, his grandkids loved him, children. It's more about the man than just a baseball person, in my opinion.
Well, that's well put, Brian. I mean, so many things there, but you're right. You never know when it's the last time you're going to see somebody, and you had a few years at least to say goodbye. Right. Do you recall, we ran a clip there after you won the World Series, led the Braves to a World Series championship. Do you remember what the conversation was like when you got to talk to Bobby about, again, reaching the pinnacle? Brian, you got us? I think we were locked up on Brian.
And even
Go ahead.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Hold on. All right. Even though it was, even back then in 21, he still, was hard to communicate. You could tell, his actions, and he knew everything you were saying. And I remember the day I went over and Alex and I took the trophy over. And I remember the day, we took pictures, and his Skyla and Josh and their grandkids were there, and Pam, and we took pictures. And I remember taking his ring over. I had the honor of doing that. And I remember unearthing that ring. And
All right, we apologize again. We locked up there with Brian Snitker. Again, great having him on. And I think, we're not coming back right now. But you can hear from exactly what he was saying there at the very end, being able to give him a World Series championship ring. And we just wanted to pay proper respect to the man, Bobby Cox. We lost him over the weekend. Our thanks to Brian Snitker for joining us here. This is not an accident. They do value defense. Lowest payroll in the game. They are the two-time defending division champions in their division. Check this out. Framing runs last season and then also so far this season. Patrick Bailey is not just number one. He's number one by a wide margin. And check out number 4, Austin Hedges, already on the Guardians. Cleveland now with 2 of the top 4 framers in the game. Now, maybe that seems like a small esoteric stat to you. It's not. It's big. It's important. And when we see Cleveland with the lowest payroll in the game get back in the playoffs, you'll have one of the reasons why. Right here, Patrick Bailey, now with the Guardians. Now, Cliff Floyd, John Heyman. Cliff, I know he didn't hit, right? But that was my question to Zach Manassian was, I know he's not hitting, but he's stealing strikes for you left and right. What do you make of this trade?
Well, he didn't hit. Okay, cool. So I think he became expendable because the middle of the order is not hitting. So you're not getting enough offense. So you look at Adames, you look at Chapman, you look at Devers. They're not producing.
That's not his fault.
I understand that, but when you look at the catcher spot, it's like, well, who can we get rid of? And did he mention Porter? Who did he mention? The general manager, or did he mention Jesus Rodriguez?
No.
Okay, Jesus Rodriguez and Daniel Susac. Those are the 2 that he count on, right? So I think of this from a standpoint of if that's what you're worried about, I think it's more problems to that team other than Patrick Bailey. And I think when you look at Patrick Bailey, what he brings to a team is you're trying to get the pitching staff on point as well. So it's something else going on here because Patrick Bailey is 220, 230 with 9 homers and 30 ribbies a year. If you look at the league average, league average is 230 amongst catchers. So he's not far off from what
he's like 88, 90 weighted runs per
But he's
plus,
a great defensive catcher.
Yeah.
And that's where the game is going. So when I look at this, it has to be something else that we're missing that speaks to why he got traded.
Okay.
Because you can't just go on this.
Now, I'm trying to be fair.
And I'm not trying to be a reporter like Jay's looking at me like, man, you ain't done this before I have. So go ahead.
At one point, they got yield back. They got a return here. They got a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And they got, again, Tugboat Wilkinson is carving it up right now in Double-A. So those are 2 nice pieces. I'm just surprised. It's May.
Yeah,
John, what has happened? And plus, if it's the Guardians or the Rays trading for a framing pitcher, then I'm thinking they know something here.
I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here. I do kind of get it from San Francisco's standpoint. And, to say something about the Guardians and say, well, they're not doing exactly the right thing is a little crazy because this is a team that always does the right thing, that overachieves.
They maximize.
Their front office is amazing.
Yep.
But just to present a couple of the other facts, he did have an OPS of under 400, right? His career WAR is 3. It's not like they've traded a superstar. Now, he is the best in the game at something. And, that's something that we obviously have to talk about. But if you look at the total picture, as the GM was talking, it's, it's not a player who's really going to impact the team much. And I don't get it. I don't really, again, Cleveland, they're fantastic. They already have Austin Hedges. They had to demote Bo Naylor, who's a decent player. How much does that improve them? It's not that I love the nickname Tugboat Wilkinson. I think you're right about the draft choice. It's not just $3 million. That is huge. That is big.
Late first round, you get a real guy.
You're going to get a lot. You're going to get impact, right? So I don't blame him. I really don't.
This is, this is an impact trade, man. That's a first-round pick. That's a really good Double-A pitcher. That's not nothing. But Cleveland knows something, man.
Yes.
And they'll say,